The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
I'm horror author T. Fox Dunham.
And I'm horror author and filmmaker Phil Thomas.
And tonight we're asking you...
What are you afraid of?
I am Darcy Oort, author of Haunted Philadelphia, and this is What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show on Para-X Radio, 9 p.m. on Friday night.
Phil,
Fox.
you do realize that you were named after the greatest city in the world.
I know.
Philadelphia.
It's an honor.
It is an honor. And it's so awesome. I'm so jealous.
Are you jealous?
There's no Foxadelphia.
No, there isn't.
There really needs to be.
No.
I know.
I'm trying to think of what's Fox Chase.
Okay, Fox Chase.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, that's not bad. That's close.
There's the Planet Fox, where we're all awesome.
That's right.
Yeah. But we've been doing a lot of Philadelphia stuff recently because we are Philadelphia's home of horror.
That's right.
And on this episode 52, which is a part one of a 3-part special we're doing this month, because we're going down to Fort Mifflin on September 16th, which is just one of the most haunted sites in the world.
It is.
You know, we'll be down there.
We've been there. Mm-hmm. We've been there before, but never did a live show.
Right. You were there for that ghost hunt the one time.
Yeah.
And then we went down last year with
right.
Rebecca Bumble, and we went down and we recorded that show and got that information and talked to the people. That was great.
We should do a ghost hunt this year.
Oh, we're going to.
Like, as far as, like, I mean, obviously we're going to be doing the live broadcast show. But last time we were there, we were more of the, which I think we should do again, journalists interviewing people, but I think we should partake in it.
I think so, too.
I think we should actually go there with some gear and see what happens for like an hour.
I agree. Let's get some EVPs, maybe get a ghost box.
Yeah, try it.
That'd be good. We'll catch something.
Yeah, we'll try. You know?
If we can get through the crowds of people.
Right.
You know, I remember it being a little crowded.
It was a little crowded, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and it'll be fun.
But we are doing a Philadelphia episode 52, Philly Ghost Stories, Part 1, on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show on Para-X Radio on Friday nights at 9, most nights at 9, sometimes on First Friday at 6 p.m. for the Philly Foxy Haunted Spooky Hour, which is always fun. On this episode and on the next two, we are honored by a remarkable author, researcher, animal lover, and a person of frenetic energy. She wrote Haunted Philadelphia, which has served as a source for
and we're looking at it right now.
Yeah, and her name is Darcy Oort. Hello, Darcy.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, Darcy.
I'm good.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We've been enjoying your book for some time now. And
Thank you.
Have you read the book, Phil, this one? The ghost story she's telling?
I read some of it, yeah. It's very good.
She divides it up into geography.
I started in Old City, didn't I?
Of course.
No, I start with Ben, because you got to start with Ben Franklin when you talk about Philadelphia and his many ghosts that wander around the city. And then I kind of start with the history and the kind of Old City, because Philadelphia is notorious for its history. And so one of the things I like to do when I talk about ghosts is to talk about the actual history of the location and talk about like the possibility of it. Because we sometimes forget that ghosts are people, and so knowing their history and knowing why they're there kind of helps us understand them.
So, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, the ghost of Ben Franklin has been seen in Philadelphia. Could you tell us a little about that?
He's been seen in a couple of different places. One of his locations is his burial ground, which is the Christ Church burial ground. And if you haven't been there, it's very old burial ground. He's buried in the corner. They actually took out part of the fence and replaced it with an iron fence so that people can see his grave even when the cemetery's not open. So one of the things people like to do is to toss pennies onto his gravestone to kind of honor him, as you know, because he's not famous for actually saying, but famous for repeating the old phrase, penny saved is a penny earned. And people have reported at times that throwing pennies back at them.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Like they'll be standing there, and because there's a bus stop right there, and like people like find pennies suddenly thrown at them.
I would love to have a penny thrown at me by Ben Franklin.
I mean, that would be cool.
I think that'd be great.
Well, he's not going to be able to do it very much longer because they phased out the penny.
Oh, yeah.
Are they phasing out the penny? I did not know this.
The penny's being phased out. Yeah, goodbye. At least that's what I keep reading. I hope it's not an internet hoax.
Wow.
I think they've been talking about that for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's finally. I mean, it's going to take a little while to institute. You know, well, they can throw nickels.
I was going to say, you can throw nickels.
Right. It's inflation.
Yeah.
It's throw $100 bills because that's what his face is on, right?
Right. Let's encourage that, and they go hide behind the grave every day.
I think they do actually collect the money and they use it to help keep the graveyard. But they say that there is, because right now they're doing a restoration of the slab that it covers him, and they say that like you can see like there's little pockmarks from all of the pennies that have been thrown at it.
Wow.
It's a tradition. It's sad. It's like one of the things like, okay, can we just like put a net or something so we can still do it?
Right.
I like the $100 bill idea. I think that would be great if Ben threw $100 bills back at you.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, so we'll go wait by
There'd be a line about
there'll be a
5 miles
line.
long, like,
Yeah.
just waiting. Yeah.
Old town.
Just opening for a wind. You're like, oh,
Yep.
where'd this $100 bill come from?
Yeah, we're spreading the rumor now. That's what we're doing.
That's right.
Yes, we're moving to the $100 bill when pennies are no longer. But he is also notorious. Women have been reported that he will pinch their bottoms on occasion.
Oh, wow.
If they're standing by his. He is notorious for being a womanizer. They don't teach you that in high school.
I've
Yeah, he
heard
was
that.
a
I've heard that, yeah.
cheeky fellow.
Yes.
He really was. Yeah, he was quite the womanizer.
Yes, he was.
And he had a couple of wives and a bastard son, the governor of New Jersey. And yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Right.
He liked his ladies.
Yeah. So he still enjoys the ladies when they standing by his thing. So
Nice.
That's it. We're going to go give Ben Franklin sensitivity
That's right.
course, and he's going to throw pennies at us.
if he doesn't like you, he throws you a penny at you. If he likes you, he shows his affections in other ways.
Oh, well,
Nice.
I hope my bum doesn't get pinched.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure it's possible.
It's a side of Ben Franklin we not know about. You know?
Yeah. And we're going to play our first ghost story, which was given to us with permission by Darcy Oort. And David Walton is back, our British folk singer. We've given him a bit of a holiday.
Right.
It was his birthday. We wished him happy birthday. And now he is back recording stories for us. And this is from her book, Haunted Philadelphia. We'll have a link on the site where you can get this remarkable book and a link to her websites. And I suggest you pick it up, especially if you love Philadelphia ghost stories. This is her research, her writing, read by David Walton, not for reproduction without the permission of the author. The Hill-Physick-Keith House on 321 South 4th Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X.
The Hill-Physick-Keith House, 321 South 4th Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the area known as Society Hill. Researched and written by Darcy Oort from her book Haunted Philadelphia. Used with permission of the author and read by David Walton. Society Hill is a neighbourhood inside Centre City, loosely defined as the area between Walnut and Lombard Streets and Front and 8th Street. It was named after the 18th century Free Society of Traders. Today, the neighbourhood has the highest concentration of original 18th and 19th century architecture than anywhere else in the United States. With such a connection to the past, no wonder a few former residents from that era have had a hard time leaving. In 2003, 3 employees were working on the 3rd floor of the Hill-Physick-Keith House, better known as the Physic House, when a breeze scattered papers onto the floor. "We'd better close the fireplace flue," one of them suggested, as she knelt to gather the papers. "That's quite a draft." "Impossible," her co-worker assured her. "The flue was sealed years ago." "But if it didn't come from the fireplace, then where?" She looked up and noticed a shadowy figure standing in the hallway near the doorway. Before they could react, the figure moved down the hallway and disappeared into the wall. They had just met the Grey Lady of Physic house. The house gets its hyphenated name from its three most prominent owners. Wine importer Henry Hill built the house in 1786. In 1815, Abigail Physic purchased the house and deeded it to her brother Philip. He expanded the house and lived in it until his death in 1837. The house was then passed on or sold to various relations until Elsie Keith bought it in 1895. Elsie was Philip Physic's great-great-granddaughter. Born in Philadelphia in 1768, Philip Syng Physic earned his medical degree from the University of Edinburgh before returning to Philadelphia to set up a medical practice with the help of his friend, Benjamin Rush. He was one of the few doctors that stayed in the city to treat the ill during the 1793 yellow fever epidemic. He served as surgeon at Pennsylvania Hospital from 1794 to 1816, and then at Philadelphia Almhouse from 1801 to 1816, and was a consulting surgeon to the Pennsylvania Institution for the Blind in 1821. He was elected to first professor of surgery at the University of Pennsylvania Medical School in 1805. He resigned to take the position as the university's chair of anatomy in 1819, a position he held until he retired in 1831. During this time, he regularly lectured on surgery at Pennsylvania Hospital. For these many achievements, he has become known as the father of American surgery. On several occasions, people have seen the figure of a woman wearing a long, flowing gown appear unexpectedly in the house. The ghost pauses occasionally, as if looking for something, before disappearing. Others report seeing a woman's face in the mirror. On another occasion, the son of a tour guide reported talking to a lady who vanished through the window. Many people believe the ghost in the house is Philip's ex-wife, Elizabeth Emlyn. Philip and Elizabeth married on September 18th, 1800. They had 7 children, 3 of which died in infancy. In 1815, the couple decided to separate and later divorced. The divorce papers do not say why they split, but several theories exist. According to the legends, to keep Elizabeth calm during the divorce, Dr. Physic dosed her with opium. This left her in a dazed state and caused her to wander the house and backyard, where she frequently sat under her favourite tree. She died in 1820, 5 years after the divorce was finalised. The cause of death is unknown, but some speculate it was caused by an overdose of opium. All was fine until her favourite tree was chopped down. Since then, a figure of a woman wearing a lavender gown has been seen and even heard sobbing in the garden. In some of the stories, Dr. Physic ordered the tree cut down while Elizabeth was alive. Another legend says Elizabeth was addicted to opium and unstable. Her husband, fearing for the safety of the children, barred her from entering the home. Unable to get inside, she wandered around the backyard and peered into the windows, upset that she was not allowed inside. For those reasons, she has returned after death to gain entry to the home. In reality, Philip and his wife divorced in 1815, the same year Abigail gave the house to her brother. Philip and his children moved into the house. Elizabeth stayed in her father's house before moving into a new house on Pine Street, according to a letter written by her sister-in-law, Susan. The letter also said her aunt was moving into the residence to be her companion, and she hoped that the solitude that poor Betsy has thus reduced herself may give time and occasion for useful reflection, and thus be a means of leading her back to a better way. Since Elizabeth never lived in the house on 4th Street, she would be an unlikely candidate to haunt it. A better candidate is Elsie Keith. She spent roughly 40 years in the house and extensively remodelled the house because she had an extreme phobia of dust. She removed baseboards and replaced them with white glazed tiles so the floors could be mopped. She also removed all the mouldings, which caught dust, and removed the inside shutters along with a variety of other items to keep the house dust-free. Perhaps what the ghost is looking for is dust. Keith has reasons to haunt the house. In the 1960s, publisher Walter Annenberg bought the house and restored it to the state it was in when Physic lived in it. In other words, he undid the dust-ridding renovations that Elsie had done. Annenberg then donated the house to the Philadelphia Society for the Preservation of Landmarks, which has made it into a museum. Others say the ghost is one of the many cadavers that Physic unearthed from local cemeteries to use in his surgical lectures, although these ghosts would be more likely to haunt Pennsylvania Hospital, where the lectures took place and where, rumour has it, their bodies were then reburied. No historical evidence supports this tale, however. One final rumour is that the ghost is a former resident when the site contained an infirmary for the ill and insane. This last rumour has the most truth to it. The Spruce Street Almshouse occupied the entire block between 3rd and 4th Streets and Spruce and Pine Streets. Built in 1732, it remained in use until a large almshouse was built in 1767 down the street.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What Are You Afraid Of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X.
Hi, I'm David Walton, and I drop whatever I'm doing to read whatever Fox and Phil demand of me. My digital, as opposed to ectoplasmic alter ego, is called Brendan Shawland, who regularly plays guitar and sings in a virtual world. Brendan has a website, David doesn't. Bandcamp sales figures would suggest that Brendan's music is decidedly niche. If you want to be in the vanguard of support as Brendan heads towards global domination, just put Brendan Shawland in your favourite search engine, and you'll find his website very close to the top. You'll see what the human looks like, and you can check out the Listen to a Song page to access Brendan's unwillingly private world of creative output.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
So the Hill-Physick House, read wonderfully by David Walton.
Yeah.
Darcy, how did you research that?
Kind of started collecting stories from various sources, both online and there's a few other really great Philadelphia ghost books. And then a lot of what I did was start delving into the history, and I had access to a lot of the older newspapers and things like that. And so I started kind of looking at the real history of the house and out of each site so that I could kind of get a background. And that's kind of where the stories come from, because I don't believe in promoting fake stories. And there's some of the great haunted houses that are promoted in a lot of the TV shows. They promote like the false history of their site to kind of promote the ghost stories. I want to get back down to the truth, because that's really, to investigate hauntings, you kind of have to eliminate everything else, and then what you're left with is the ghosts.
You use other ghost books. Do you ever go down to city records? Do you talk to historians?
I have reached out to some of the historians. I have found it's getting harder and harder to get them to talk to you, because of there is, even as far as, as ghosts have come, there is still this kind of belief for historians that the true history has nothing to do with the ghosts.
Right.
Oh, that's very true. I can understand that, and especially with so many people becoming interested in the paranormal now.
A lot of them are just into factual and not speculation. I mean, a lot of them are black and white. So. Right.
Yeah. I can see how that would be difficult. Tell us a little about your history.
I was a writer before I've always liked ghosts, but I was more of a kind of a nonfiction writer. And when I was writing in Nashville, I started working for the Nashville Ghost Tour there as a tour guide, and had some pretty great experiences with the ghosts on Capitol Hill, including President Polk, who is very active at his tomb, which happens to be on the Capitol grounds in Nashville.
You had an experience there with that?
Well, I had multiple experiences with that. My first one actually happened before, as my first night kind of learning the tour. I took a picture at Polk's tomb, and in the background there is a face, and it looks exactly like President Polk. Which, I am somebody who I will debunk everything, and so you can always say like, well, there's a psychology. Your brain is designed to recognize faces. That's why you look at clouds and you'll see things. It's that
pattern recognition.
Yeah. So you say, okay, well, that's why you see a face, but why is it President Polk's face? You can't quite explain. And so that's how I kind of debunk myself. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, you should see why I see a face, but it does look exactly like President Polk. He's kind of bald. And so I feel like it was his way of welcoming me there. He's not the only ghost that haunts the Capitol. I used to have one that I actually felt was probably a soldier that the Civil War that used to follow me on my tour. He would prank me on my tour. Like, he would do things like, I had a lantern and he'd blow the candle out in the lantern. He'd turn it off when I had an electric one as well, and he turned that one off. And he'd play with electrical devices. He used to drain people's cameras,
the
batteries in the camera.
Yeah. That's happened to me on a couple occasions. Yeah.
I started to complain about it during my tour, so he started draining them and then filling them back up.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, and it would happen multiple times, usually once a week, and it was like different cameras. Sometimes it'd be people's phones, and I could never find an explanation for how that happened, because they said, we just charged the batteries up for this tour, and so, but I also have several pictures of he would show up as a very bright orb, either bright white or bright green, and he would follow me, and people would be able to see him, usually in their cameras, and they'd see it, he'd hover around me. And one night somebody would try to come over and take a picture with me and the orb, and every time he would come over to me, the orb would leave. And every time we'd go sit back down, the orb could come back. And the whole tour was watching this on his camera. I didn't see it because I was just standing there. But they're they all could see this thing, and they couldn't figure out why this orb, it wouldn't stay in the photograph with him.
Wow, so we've got ghosts that can solve the world's power problems. Fossil fuels and ghost fuels.
That's right.
Excellent.
And I've never heard of that.
No, I've not heard. I've heard of the draining thing. I've heard of paranormal investigators going, we got in there and our phones were drained completely and our cameras were dead and we just put a fresh battery in. And it's but these ghosts were polite.
Yeah.
They felt bad and they charged you back up.
They didn't like you complaining.
What's that?
Have you ever had that happen to you?
No. I've never had that. Yeah, I've usually been pretty good.
Jenny Wade House happened to me.
It happened to you at the Jenny Wade in Gettysburg.
I had a full battery.
Yeah.
Going into the basement, within a few minutes, it was done, and my camera was off.
Now, the theories I keep hearing behind that is that the ghosts are draining energy to be able to affect the material reality around them.
Right.
Like basic thermodynamics, they're transferring. They're atomic reactors. They're taking energy and making matter out of them.
Correct.
That is a theory I have heard, and I think there's something to it, because especially if you have kind of an electrical storm or a thunderstorm going through, they tend to be more active.
Right. Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, Mark Nesbitt, we were just talking about him, Gettysburg. He thinks that a lot of ghost activity are residual electrical charges in areas where there's a lot of quartz in the ground or crystal.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there is the piezoelectric effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates a current in the crystal. So he thinks it's like trapping time, these images and minds in these crystals and then playing out on battlefields and things.
Yeah.
I've heard that theory as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a town in Maryland, they say that's why it's very, very haunted. I think that each place kind of has, I think there's a lot of different reasons for ghosts, and that each place kind of has its own unique kind of set of things. So you can't really say, like, this is why all ghosts occur. It's like, this is why this ghost is occurring.
That's a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really determine the exact science behind it. We're going to pause with Darcy Oort to play a song from a friend of mine called Jerry Griffith, or better known as Thunderfoot Lorefield. He performed on Second Life like David Walton did, How I Met Him.
Yeah.
And he's a sort of country folk singer who did an eerie song called As Real as It Seems from Jerry Griffith, the Great Thunder Bunny, on What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal show.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
Got a new shade of blue, and it's not about you. It's all about the things that some people do. They smile and they nod and remember the dream, but things aren't always as real as they seem. The assumptions they make when they see you and me, and the things that they think about how we should be. They know we were once a part of a team, but things aren't always as real as they seem. Where did we go wrong is not the answer we seek, or the question we face. What can we do right this time is what will put us in a better place. The past is a blast that you can't escape from. When you try it, you find that you can't go back home. You can turn back the clock and remember the dream, but things aren't always as real as they seem. And rocking horse shows. I've never gone before where I've never been, but things aren't always as real as they seem. Where did we go wrong is not the answer we seek, or the question we face. What can we do right this time is what will put us in a better place. I got a new shade of blue, and it's all about you. That's not what I said, cause it's not what I knew. My memories of you were all brandy and cream, but things aren't always as real as they seem. 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 As real as they seem.
We've all experienced messages from beyond the silver veil, whether we want to admit it or not. Some people take no notice, ignoring these outreaches. Others embrace them. seeing them as evidence of an expanded universe. Whether these stories frighten or comfort, we are reassured.
The mission of What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show is to explore the dark side through paranormal investigation, folklore, and the arts. The show is an audio magazine. We share true ghost stories, dark fiction, interviews with ghost hunters and indie authors, filmmakers, artists, and musicians. We discuss industry issues and offer support. We have a unique and varied theme that creates a show unlike others.
Our weekly show is featured on all major podcast services, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, and YouTube. We are a part of ParaX Radio.
We need your true ghost experiences, so write them down in an email, preferably under 2,000 words, which comes to about 3 or 4 typed pages, and send them to whatareyouafraidof117@gmail.com. Please don't attach them as a file. And don't worry about trying to write like Charles Dickens. Just tell us your story as if you were telling a friend. And if you're not sure if it's actually a ghost story or not, but it's still weird, send it anyway. Also send us your photos, EVPs, recipes, your thoughts, and any artwork.
Check out our website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com for our ghost story archives, articles, photos, and expanded material. And you can buy t-shirts, mugs, laptop covers, and animals apparently with our logo on it. Follow us at Twitter at PFWhatAfraidOf. That's PFWhatAfraidOf.
You cannot escape the darkness, so explore it with us now at
What Are You Afraid Of?
Part 4 of the Music de Teufel, the Music of the Devil, from Savage Beasts, from Grey Matter Press, written and narrated by T. Fox Dunham. In the previous scenes, which are available soon on the website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com, we see a German scientist at a concentration camp doing experiments with a concerto to try to make himself younger and healthier while drawing the life energy of his subjects. In the future, we see his descendant with a son dying, a pianist who wants to save his son at all costs, and he now has the journal of Dr. Otto Kerner. And we begin. Waning sunlight set the orange and crimson crowns of the maples that lined Main Street afire, creating the perfect atmosphere for Halloween. Costume kids stalk the streets in search of treats. Witches, clowns, zombies, and animals. For a moment, seeing them diverted Stephen's thoughts from the possessive images of Otto Kernel's journal. He remembered Martin's first Halloween, dressed as a scarecrow, oblivious as a baby to the holiday. It had been more for Stephen and Elizabeth, really, but Martin came to enjoy several future Halloweens. Stephen was still shaking and turned on the radio to calm himself while he drove to his apartment to change for the benefit. Once home, he opened a bottle of wine and studied the music inscribed in the journal. The only copy of the Dark Concerto, the Devil's Music. The notes appeared simple at first, basic chords, and they played a saturnine melody. He touched the keys on the grand piano, finding the dark spirit of the song. His heart sped. The song played like church bells ringing a funeral dirge, the loss of some beloved soul buried and wasted. Could this work? He believed in the spirit of music, the divine spark, a current that powered or drained. What could be lost if it was only the fantasy of a madman? The concerto was simple enough, easily played by a student, and Stephen could experiment tonight's benefit. He got up from the piano and dressed in his best cravat and coat tails. Elizabeth would always straighten his lapel and collar, calling him a mess. "What would you do without me?" she would have said. He answered his house phone before he left. It was the coroner calling to notify next of kin. Father Barlow drank too much of the blood of Christ and had been promoted to a higher office. Next scene. Stephen drove to the center and slipped inside through the stage entrance. According to the journal, the concerto drained the raw vitality of the life from its listeners, not something Stephen could do one-on-one without suspicion. Tonight he would play the song for the assembled audience. He hoped it would only siphon a fraction of the energy from each person, perhaps a few days of life. Still, the morality bothered him. He'd be stealing their days, maybe a few months. He'd be stealing their days, maybe a few months, ending lives earlier than would their natural deaths. What right did he have? The curtain opened, the lanterns glowed, the audience clapped. Stephen left his cane backstage and limped to the piano. I am Stephen Von Saint. I welcome you tonight, and I ask you all a serious question. The audience waited in anticipation. If through some miracle you could give a few days of your life instead of money to heal children dying from cancer, would you? They applauded, each so sure of their hypothetical choice, but probably not seriously considering it, having no comprehension of the dark processes he was about to begin. Stephen accepted their gift and played the Nazi doctor's composition. As he played, he heard the cries of the murdered concentration camp inmates in the background, their screams and sorrows intricately woven into the melody, creating the base for the melancholy music. Shadows danced to the rhythm. His fingers tingled. Blue sparks flew from the keys, and his body surged with diabolical power. Stephen could sense the souls of his audience meshed into a gestalt, feeling their hurts, their betrayals, lives of fear and joy, all fleeting. He drained their hours. A few hairs turned gray. Extra wrinkles creased their faces. Still none noticed the casual theft. When he finished the Nazi concerto, the audience applauded wildly, sending quakes to the floor. Stephen finished his set, having performed his best concert ever. As he steadied his legs to walk off stage, he noticed that the pain no longer shot up through his thigh and into his groin. The concerto had healed him, and he would return to the hospital to share the cure with his son, Martin, and maybe save his life. That was part 4 of the Music to Teufels from T. Fox Dunham. Find the whole story soon on www.whatareyoufraidofpodcast.com.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X.
Mercy, a new horror medical thriller from author T. Fox Dunham, published by Bloodbound Books. Based on the author's horrific battle with a rare form of lymphoma that involved intense chemotherapy and radiation, Fox turns the horror of his experience into terror on the page.
William Saint is dying of cancer. On most days, death seems like a humane alternative to the treatment. Stricken with fever, William is rushed to Mercy, notorious as a place to send the sickest of the poor and uninsured to be forgotten, and finds the hospital in even worse condition than his previous visit.
Willie's memories faded. He grabbed his sack head of the scarecrow, picking at the exposed chicken wire to hold them in. However, the memories fell out of the holes in his face. They wormed and crawled from the leather flesh and the old clothing of the scarecrow, then squirmed and wiggled down his body.
The grounds are unkempt, the foundation is cracking, and like the wild mushrooms sprouting from the fissures of decay around it, something is growing inside the hospital. Something dark.
Fangoria gives Mercy 3.5 out of 4 skulls. Dunham has channeled his many brushes with the other side into the exquisitely rendered, lyrical, supernatural hospital thriller Mercy.
It's feeding on the sickness and sustaining itself on the staff, changing them, and now it wants Willie.
Come now, Mr. Saint. Just a little more of that sweet milk. So salty and so good. You won't miss it. And we ever do so like our delicacies here at Mercy Hospital.
Part medical horror, part supernatural suspense, Mercy is a hard-hitting fever dream of a novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Tim Wagner, author of The Way of All Flesh and Eat the Night. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere in both print and digital versions.
Life is an addiction.
Let go. Let it all burn.
Hi, this is Tim from Comic Zen. We're located at 301A West Main Street in Lansdale, right near the intersection with Susquehanna Avenue. We have new comics, old comics, graphic novels, including comics made just for kids. Action figures, statues, comic supplies, board games, card games, and much more. We have a special order service for both comics and games, And we have a comic subscription service so you don't miss your monthly issues. So come to Comic Zen. Just don't upset the samurai ghost who haunts the store.
And guess what, kiddies? Foxy and Philly will be recording live from Comic Zen in Lansdale every first Friday of the month. So come down and see us at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, not then, because we will be recording live for the Philly Foxy Haunted Spooky Hour on Para-X Radio. And bring your ghost stories a little before or a little after, and we'll be glad to collect them at Comic Zen. First Fridays, at Comic Zen. Comic Zen in Lansdale, PA.
Rat, where are you going?
I'm going back to the Paranormal View, back where I belong.
Please, take me with you.
No, I'm through with everything here. I want to see if there's something left in life I haven't explored. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Rat, don't run to them. They talk about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs, and all kind of supernatural scary stuff.
You'll never understand, will you, Scarlet?
No!
Well, that's your misfortune.
Rat, if you go, where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear... Line!
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
That's the Paranormal View with your host, Henry Foister, Jeffrey Gould, Kat Cloco, and Barbara Duncan. Every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the Para-X Radio Network.
The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. They crawl all over your dirty snout, your chest. My name is David Walton. I am a vocal performer for What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal show. And I have carried the burden of a terrible secret. I am actually what is offensively called a ghost. For years now I have concealed my ectoplasmic existence from my friends and family, in fear of a common prejudice against ghosts, or what we like to call the disembodied. I have existed frightened of being discovered, unable to do physical acts that the embodied take for granted, such as walking a squirrel, or drinking a glass of vitamin E milk fresh squeezed from a whale. I grew depressed and even considered acts of self-harm or reincarnation, which is suicide for the disembodied. Such movies as Ghostbusters and its sequels drove my feelings of disenfranchisement, and I began looking for help, only to encounter painful exorcisms in the houses I haunted. Then I met two good people, it says here, Fox and Phil, at What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal. And they helped me take control of my own life. Now, it is my choice whether I wish to make phantom bangs in the night, appear at the foot of your bed in darkness, or make your walls bleed. If you are a disembodied person like I am, and you're living a lie, What Are You Afraid Of? Can help you too. They are on at 9 p.m. on Friday nights at Para-X Radio, leaving plenty of time for midnight haunting activities, and can be found on all major podcast services. Listen to their paranormal stories, interviews, humorous sketches and horror fiction to know that you are not alone. And if you are a member of the embodied, don't forget, you are only a single heart attack or tumour away from becoming one of us. This is David Walton. See you on the other side. Or as I call it, this side. And that is the end of a perfect day.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
Chestnut Hill College, 9601 Germantown Avenue. Researched and written by Darcy Oort from her book Haunted Philadelphia. Read by Allison Levetter. According to Chestnut Hill College's website, They do not have a ghost haunting its grounds. They have several. The site proudly proclaims the college's paranormal activities have spanned decades and occur in several locations across their campus. And to give them credit, they do seem to have quite a few ghosts. So let's start the ghostly campus tour. St. Joseph Hall has several spirits. The first is a young nun who leaped from the bishop's steps after giving birth to a priest's child. The school used to be a convent. She can be seen floating around the floor. A set of locked doors in the building keeps prying eyes away from a crucifix where the woman placed her child before her death. If you knock 3 times on the doors, you'll get 3 raps in return. The art room is also said to be haunted by a former teacher. A ghost also haunts the basement, although this may be the ghost of the art teacher. This is in the same building where 71-year-old adjunct professor Rudolf Alexandrov committed suicide in August 2011. He was about to start his class when he became upset and walked out. He then returned to his class, shouted something, and then ran to a ledge on the 2nd floor. 2 witnesses attempted to talk him out of it, but were unsuccessful. On April 16, 2014, a 22-year-old male student was found dead on a couch in St. Joseph Hall. The cause of death was never revealed. The Logue Library is rumored to be built over a cemetery, which had already been moved twice. The construction disturbed the spirits that now haunt the library. Books and carts move on their own. The spirits are supposed to be more active after 11 p.m. Fontbonne Hall, located next door to Logue Library and the cemetery, is haunted by a young girl who died here during a flu epidemic. She wanders the 3rd floor with an unknown male spirit. In one of the rooms, doors open and close on their own. Electronic devices turn on and off, and both the shower and faucet will turn themselves on and off. Roommates are said to have the same dream of the woman on the same night. Some accounts place this ghost and haunted room on the 2nd floor of Fournier Hall. Underneath the building is a tunnel that led to the mother house, so called because it was once inhabited by nuns, where a crying woman had been heard. A room on the 2nd floor of Fournier Hall is called the Red Eye Room, because 2 red eyes have been reported to float through the room. On the 3rd floor, a young boy dressed in 1920s clothing has been seen. In the lower parking lot, between sports fields and the cemetery, the spirit of a young girl who was raped and murdered nearby appears to women walking alone. Other ghosts supposed to haunt Chestnut Hill include a young lady with a beautiful brooch, a benevolent old man in robes, little girls who like to play dice games, and a boy with a hair of fire and emerald eyes. And although the college website admits the existence of ghosts, the staff is a different matter. When asked about the ghostly occurrences, Kathleen Spiegelmeier, Director of Communications at Chestnut Hill, said, "While I believe that these Chestnut Hill College myths would make a fascinating read, there is no truth or supporting evidence to conclude that any of these events actually have happened on campus." This statement contradicts the website, which said that the campus culture's dossier of the college's paranormal activity chronicles an extensive record spanning generations of curious, unexplained noises, doors seemingly locking and unlocking on their own, and several ghost sightings. Requests for clarification of the contradiction did not get a response.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
All right, welcome back.
We're back.
We're back.
Yeah. Nice little song from Jerry. You know, we love playing new music on What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show. And you can find us on our website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com, where you can find expanded content, and many of our narrated ghost stories are there in our archive.
Yeah, little audiobook segments there.
Yeah. Not these, though. These belong to Darcy Oort, so you have to listen to the show
Right.
for these. We're going to give her copies, though. We'll see what she does with them.
Yeah. These will not be archived.
Right, and you can find her at hauntedinternet.com. That's her website. And she was also on A Ghost Story, weren't you, Darcy?
Yes, it's my ghost story. When
Right.
It was on Biography, which I think is seen in reruns various places.
And you can find that on the internet, too. And we'll have that up on the website for this episode.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's what they talk about, her Nashville ghosts, and she's on, and it's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
You know, there's such an industry in ghost stories.
Darcy, I was just wondering, in your experience, what the most haunted location of Philadelphia would be, in your opinion.
Oh, gosh, that's a hard question.
I know.
I'm going to say Fort Mifflin because
wow.
It has several spots that I think are... I debunk one of them in my book, but there's several other ones that I feel have just... There's too much and it's for too long. That's probably one of them that I say would probably be. There's several other places.
That's cool she said that because that lets us transition.
Right.
Fort Mifflin, September 16th. We're going to be down there. A whole bunch of Para-X hosts, people. They'll be doing ghost tours. It's going to be Horror at the Fort, the Philadelphia Ghost Fest. On September 16th, starting early, and we'll have vendors down there with tables and things. We'll be down there. We're going to do a sort of live coverage for a couple of hours during the day. And then we have some very well-known Horror Writer Association authors coming down.
That's right.
Phil will be reading. I'll be reading. James Chambers will be joining us. Megan Akuri-Moron. John Foster will be coming down. We know John Foster pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's been to both of our last two events. And Shannon Giglio and Peter Giglio will be driving up from Georgia to join us. So, Horror Writers Association kind of group down there.
That's a little road trip for them, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a trip.
It's a bit of a trip, yeah.
And then the Paranormal View will be broadcasting that night, and then there'll be a live ghost hunt until 2 a.m.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
So find a link on the site.
I can't wait.
Check out Fort Mifflin and join us. It's going to be pretty cool.
Last year was great, but I think this is going to top last year.
We're doing so much more this year.
Yeah.
We'll be down doing our thing, and it's going to be fun. The Philly Foxy Haunted Spooky Hour from Fort Mifflin on September 16th. That brings us to the end of episode 52, Philadelphia Ghost Stories. But don't worry, it's only part 1. Thank you, Darcy, for joining us, and we will be back with her next week to talk more about Philadelphia Ghost Stories.
That's right, part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2 coming up next week.
I'm Philly. I'm Foxy.
You get your names mixed up.
I know. I want to be Philly.
And I'm Foxy.
Okay, and we'll see you on episode 53.
That's Philly, I'm Foxy.
Yes, right.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X.
Women are horror.
Keith Fox Dunham lives in Philadelphia with his wife Allison. He's a lymphoma survivor, cancer patient, modern bard and historian. His first book, The Street Martyr, was published by Gutter Book. A major motion picture based on the book is being produced by Throughline Films. Destroying the Tangible Illusion of Reality or Searching for Andy Kaufman, a book about what it's like to be dying of cancer, was recently released from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and Fox has a story in the Stargate anthology, Points of Origin, from MGM and Fandemonium Books. Mercy was recently released by Bloodbound Books. Fox is an active member of the Horror Writers Association. He's been published in hundreds of short stories and articles, and his motto is Wrecking Civilization, one story at a time.
Phil Thomas resides in the suburbs of Philadelphia and is an author and filmmaker. His screenplays have been produced into feature films such as False Face and Always from Darkness that are available in major retailers such as Best Buy and Target, as well as availability on Netflix and Amazon On Demand.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.